If you are a sensitive introvert and you struggle with social anxiety, you may have some issues with being assertive. In fact, you might be overly nice and have trouble saying no. Now, there's two reasons for this. The first one is because sometimes we just think that we are unlikable and we have no inherent worth unless we help others. And the second one is because we're worried we're going to come off as arrogant or selfish. Now, the second one is mostly due to the fact that as young children, we were exposed to this type of behavior, either through dysfunctional families or bullying. So we make a mental note in our mind to make sure to never be like them. Unfortunately, we take it way too far. Take your kindness and couple it with a poor self-esteem, and you'll get someone who's constantly doing things for others even when it's at their detriment. Someone who's afraid to speak their mind, someone who's just constantly walked over, and someone who's just tired of just not being themselves and who they really feel like they are. I was right there. I know exactly how that feels like. I remember once at a job, I would just not speak my mind even though I know things could be done better. I was just nervous that I would upset someone or I'll cause an inconvenience in some way. I remember even when I was 15, I did a classmate's homework for 6 months straight because I didn't know how to say no and I didn't want to upset her. And after a while, honestly, you just get so sick and tired of it. You just reach breaking point and you just say, okay, you know what? I need to start being assertive. I cannot live like this anymore. I need to get it together and start being assertive and taking care of myself. But where on earth do I start? How do I be assertive? So today I'm going to share with you one tip on how you can be more assertive. But before I jump right in, let me introduce myself. For those who are new here, my name is Asha and I work with introverted professionals who struggle with social anxiety and people-pleasing behavior, and I teach them how to find their natural assertiveness so that they can step into leadership. Alright. So before I tell you this one tip, I'm going to put a disclaimer and say, please do not implement this until you've done the self-work. And what do I mean by self-work? If you watch my videos, you know I place a high emphasis on looking back into your origins and figuring out why you are the way you are. Looking at what motivates you and what are your fears, what are your concerns. Because here's the thing, a lot of people like to take a top-down approach in fixing their issues. So for example, if you have people-pleasing behavior, if you have social anxiety, you start learning how to talk, how to approach someone, how to be assertive. And these are all top level things that you can implement. But the problem is, if you do it that way, it can be very hard to stick to it because you haven't changed the internal mechanisms that caused a lot of these issues that you are struggling with in the first place. So watch the previous videos if you have no idea what I'm talking about. Do the self-work and figure out origins and understand yourself and create a nice framework for yourself so that you don't take a top-down approach and instead you take a bottom-up approach. And once you've done the self-work, then please implement this tip. So let's just say you want to ask someone to do something for you, or you want to voice your discomfort, or you want to tell someone you're unable to do something for them. Alright? So what usually is the case, let's just say for asking someone to do something for you? It usually, when you aren't assertive, it sounds like very apologetic. You know, if you're free, it would be really nice if you could get the paperwork done. I would really appreciate. And not just the body language, it's just everything about it. It's just minimizing behavior, right? So what you need to do, it's a very simple tip. When it comes to phrasing your sentences when you want to be assertive, is you're going to start off by leading and then end off by neutralizing. So what I mean by this is, say you need someone to get something done for you. You start off by leading. Hey, I need you to get the paperwork done by 5 p.m. And then you end up by neutralizing, saying, I really appreciate it, or thank you so much. Now, it's so simple, but here's what it does. When you start off by being unsure and apologetic, and not just the way you speak but your body language, what you're doing is putting yourself at the bottom of that interpersonal hierarchy. So you are essentially saying, subconsciously you're putting it in their mind that you're beneath them, even if you're not. And it's very uncomfortable. However, when you start off by leading, you're letting them know, hey, I'm up here. But when you neutralize, you say, I appreciate you, thank you so much, or a statement that's similar, you end up bringing them up with you. So for example, it would be, hey, I decided that I'll be doing this and you'll be doing that for the project next week. What do you think? So what do you think is the neutralizing statement. So you're leading, which puts you up here, and then you're saying, what do you think? Which is you're pulling them up there with you. So that is basically the formula, and it's so simple. And that's the thing, all of this is simple. It's not this complicated process that you need to do. But here's the thing, like I mentioned, if you have not done the self-work beforehand, you may use the words and it'll be great, but your body language and your entire energy is going to be one of someone who's at the bottom of the interpersonal hierarchy. So it's not just the word. Let's say I knew this beforehand and I had done the work beforehand. Let's say my classmate back then asked me to do the homework. What I would say is, oh, I'm really not comfortable with doing that, but thanks for thinking that I'm that good at my math that you would like me to do the math homework. So neutralizing can also be with humor. It's a little bit more advanced, but you'll definitely get there with time. So I hope this video has been useful for you guys, and as per usual, if you are an introverted professional who's struggling with social anxiety and people-pleasing behavior and you would like to find your natural assertiveness so you can step into leadership, feel free to book a strategy call with me. I'll leave the link in the comments. I'll talk to you guys soon.